How's it going, guys, and welcome to today's video. It's been a couple weeks now since we had the pneumonia outbreak hit the ranch out here, and I think the dust is finally starting to settle on this. We got the results back from the necropsy on the cow that we sent to UC Davis, so I wanted to talk about what we learned and some things that we might have to change moving forward. That's what we're talking about today on Farmer Tyler Ranch. But before we go over the final results from the necropsy, first I want to kind of just go back over the last few weeks and give everybody a reminder of how we got here.
This all started with me getting a phone call about my neighbor having some trouble with his cows. He was noticing discharge from the mouth and nose, and he had lost a couple already. Because our herds are in such close proximity to each other, I immediately had to get out and check my herd to hopefully find that I had no problems. After walking through the herd, most everybody looked okay, but I noticed this cow at the end that was showing some minor symptoms like what were described to me. I didn't think that she was that bad though, so I knew I had to keep an eye on her, but I didn't think that I needed to take immediate action.
Finding this cow in this condition did make me a little bit nervous, but her symptoms weren't severe, so I wasn't too worried. I was pretty sure that if she got worse, I'd be able to give her some antibiotics and still get ahead of this thing.
Unfortunately, in just 12 short hours later, it was too late and she was gone.
This discovery was definitely cause for alarm because only less than 12 hours earlier the cow was alive, and while displaying symptoms I didn't think she looked that bad, but that is how quickly this affected her. So because of the severity of this incident and because of all the problems that my neighbor had been having, we decided to load this cow up and take her to UC Davis to get a necropsy done.
My next challenge was figuring out how to actually get the cow up onto the trailer. This was a little bit harder than I thought it would be, but fortunately my 3-point boom was up to the task. After we got her on the trailer, I covered her with a tarp and we were off down the freeway to Davis.
After delivering the cow to UC Davis, they told us that preliminary results would take somewhere around 2 days and that final results would take around 2 weeks. In the meantime, while we were waiting for results, I decided to start treating the cows that looked bad with either LA200 or Draxxin, depending on how bad they were. Draxxin's super expensive, so I was only saving that for the cows that were in worse shape, and the ones that weren't so bad were getting LA200. The preliminary results said that the cow died of pneumonia and also hardware disease. Now, the hardware disease was probably just a coincidence. Clearly, in this situation, what we were worried about most was the pneumonia. Fortunately, the drugs that I was already giving the cows are actually for pneumonia, among other things, but that's one of the things that they treat for. So we were already going down the right track, and I just decided that in the coming days, any cow that started to show symptoms, I would just treat them with those antibiotics and kind of hope for the best.
This is a cow that I found a few days later after the first one, and she's showing telltale signs of pneumonia. Notice the way she stretches her neck out, holds her chin high, and watch her sides as she breathes. You can tell that she's having difficulty breathing. I really hate watching this footage because you can tell how miserable she is, but I just wanted to put this in there so you guys could see the symptoms in case you notice it in your own animals.
Over the next week, I was checking cows morning and night, and it actually turned out that every single night that week, I doctored around between 3 and 5. I started to learn that as soon as you saw any kind of symptoms, you needed to doctor them right away.
With early detection being the name of the game, I got to the point where every day when I go out and check cows, if they had so much as a droopy ear or hanging their head a little bit or really just acting any way that I thought was out of the ordinary, I put them through the chute because I learned that if they got to the point where they were heaving and panting, it was probably too late.
Of all the cows that I doctored that week, I mean, honestly, the majority of them did come out of it, but there were a few that didn't. So this was good and bad. Bad, obviously, because we were still losing cows, but good because it indicated that the treatment we were giving them was working. After doctoring all those cows in that week, I started to realize that the real key to success was getting to them early. If I waited too long, or I mean, it wasn't even that I was waiting, it was more of just not able to identify the symptoms fast enough, which as time went on, I got a lot better at that. But in the beginning, I know there are a few cows that if I would have got to them sooner, I definitely could have saved them. Due to that fact, I finally decided that the best thing to do, not only for me, but also for the cows, was just to run every single one of them through that chute and give them all antibiotics. Now, I don't normally like to do that, just, throw antibiotics at a problem, even if a cow isn't showing signs. But in this case, it just became really obvious that this pneumonia was gonna go through every single animal out here. It was just gonna happen. So I decided that just to sort of, help save the cows, help get them doctored soon enough, that this was the route to go. And I am happy to say that since doing that mass treatment, we have not lost any more animals. In fact, we haven't had any more animals show symptoms. In fact, as it happens, number 18 here and also number 33 were two of the cows that I was worried about the most. I was not sure if they were going to make it. But as you can see, they're doing fine now. So after getting this pneumonia outbreak more or less under control, we finally got our results back from UC Davis. Now, we already knew about the pneumonia, but I mean, we got that from the preliminary result, and that was really useful information to have because it gave me direction on how to go about treating these girls. But the other thing that the final result taught me was something that I wasn't expecting. In addition to having pneumonia, the cow that we had the necropsy done on was also deficient in copper and selenium. A copper and selenium deficiency will not cause pneumonia. I think that's pretty safe to say. But after talking with the people at UCD, we kind of determined that it is likely that being deficient in those minerals made the cows more susceptible and less able to fight off the pneumonia. The other thing that this explains is why the calves weren't as affected nearly as bad as the cows, because you guys know that raised livestock, usually when there's a pneumonia outbreak, the calves get hit with it super hard, and cows typically aren't affected too bad. A big part of what we think was going on is that the calves are now at this age where they're drinking a lot of milk. And because they are nursing their mother's bags down completely, more or less, with each feeding, that is putting a lot of strain and a lot of stress on mother. And I think with that nutritional demand being put on her and being deficient in those minerals, those things working together, not to mention that the weather during that week was probably about as bad as it could be for pneumonia. We had about a 40-degree swing. It'd get maybe 65 at night, and it'd get up to about 105 in the afternoon, which, as you guys know, that is the worst possible weather that you could have for really any kind of sickness. But I feel like all those things combined are what made this so bad. So moving forward, I have learned that one thing that I definitely can't slack on is mineral supplements. Now, these salt blocks are a good start, but honestly, they're probably not going to get enough from them to improve the deficiency that some of them are having right now. These are good for maintenance, but what I'm really going to need to do is to get them boosted back up to where they need to be. And the way that I'm going to probably have to do that is with some sort of injectable mineral. Those injectable minerals are actually pretty affordable. The downside is that you need a vet prescription to get them, at least in California. I don't know if it's like that everywhere, but in California you need a prescription to get anything. So I think those are definitely going to be something that I'm going to add to the program. This should also help if you guys remember the calf that we lost earlier in the year. I think that was also a selenium. There's a cow coming right behind me. I think that was also from a selenium deficiency, so it'd be good to have that stuff on hand anyway. But as you guys can see, other than being upset because they see me walking around out here and they think that it's time to go to a new field, which it's not. Other than that, they're doing pretty good. This red white face with the ear tag is probably one of the first calves that I doctored, because I was tagging them to kind of keep track of who got doctored and who didn't. And that calf's looking good now. Also, this cow here, I remember being a little worried about her, and she looks perfectly fine now. So the question that I'm sure a lot of people are going to have is, what caused this, or how did this even happen in the first place? And the truthful answer is that we will probably never know the answer to that question. Both the neighbor and I have closed herds. The only animals that we bring in are bulls, and the bulls have been here, for 2 months and before this happened, so I can't hardly blame it on them. The only thing that I'm wondering now is if maybe a varmint like a skunk or a possum or something. I don't know if that's even possible, but something like that could have brought something in here that we weren't expecting. Well, I may never know what caused this all to happen. What I do know now is that we seem to be getting ahead of it. The other thing that I know a lot of you are probably wondering is how the bulls are doing, and the bulls are still doing fine. They were never affected by this, which further supports the theory, because obviously they weren't lactating or trying to feed a calf, so they weren't being drugged down like these cows were. I think that pretty much covers everything. There's a lot of information to go over here, so if I missed something or if you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments, and I will do my best to get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks for hanging out in the field with me today, guys, and I hope I'll see you again on Farmer Tyler Ranch.